You are now tuned in to Straight Talk Live with Greg Fan, where you are invited to have open discussions of topics ranging from social, political, economics, religious, or just open dialogue. So now, let's get to talking with Greg Fan.
Grace and peace. This is Bishop Aaron Lackey, pastor of Temple of Prayer Family Worship Cathedral in Fairburn, Georgia, and presiding bishop of the United Churches of God in Christ Incorporated. I watch Straight Talk with Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, every Friday from 5 o'clock p.m. until 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That's right, Straight Talk with Bishop Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, every Friday, 5 p.m. until 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Whatever you do, don't miss Straight Talk.
And whatever you do, don't you miss Straight Talk with Greg Fan, the Preacher Man. And welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with yours to the great Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, and my co-host Shannon Jones. Hey, Shannon. Hey, Shannon.
Hey, Bishop, how you doing?
Hey, Shannon, if I was doing any better, if I was doing any better, Shannon, I would be doing better. How's your week been going, my friend?
Oh, man, it's been a great week. It's been a great week. We're less than 93 days before we have a new term, and I'm just counting it down. Every day makes me happier to know when we put the orange man on that green helicopter and send him flying.
Well, I pray that Shannon, that Carter has cooked you some good food, and you're eating all the groceries.
There you go with some more fat jokes. This is what God is cooking for me. This is what I'm eating, avocados.
It's not a fat joke, man. Shoot, it's not a fat joke. No, it's not a fat joke. Well, we got an exciting guest today. We have Sister Franchesca Warren, who's running for the Fulton County School Board District 4. So we're going to bring her on, and she's going to talk to us about her candidacy and why we should support her. Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm already supporting her, so I'm just telling you before we get into it,
I'm supporting her too, man. I'm supporting her. She
Secret.
got my vote
Don't tell
already.
nobody I'm already supporting her. But you can tell 300 folks that I'm with her, okay? Okay. How's your week been going, my friend? Hey, Francesca, how are you?
It's been a great week. It's been a great week.
It's been great. I'm wwonderful. This has been a great week and just
so
ready
you weren't going to let me
for...
ask you about your week. You just going to tell me. You just going to tell me all about your week. I can't ask you the question. You just going to jump dead into it. Now, I wasn't check. Don't buy the Shannon stuff about the fat joke. I wasn't finna do that. You my AKA Sora. I ain't thinking about Shannon. But go right ahead, okay? You were just saying, I'm sorry.
It's been a great week. Just trying to get through this summer so we can start school, even though it's going to be virtual. But it's been a great week. And just like Shannon said, I am counting the days down to where we will have a new president of the United States. But that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story. The Lord told me to tell 300 folks don't vote for Donald Trump. And y'all 2 of the 3, so I'm up to 57.
You just did.
I'm getting on up there. Let's talk a little bit about you and who you are and about your candidacy and why you chose to run for Fulton County School Board.
So I am a longtime resident of South Fulton County, and I have 4 children. I have a 20-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Happily married to my college sweetheart. And for the last, since my oldest son has been in school, I've been pretty active in schools. Just from me being a teacher. I was a teacher for 12 plus years, went into administration. And about 5 years ago, when my son was probably in about 10th grade, I started to get very antsy around some of the decisions that I was seeing being made. And so I started a group called South Fulton Parents for Education. And in that group, really teaching parents how to advocate for their children. Because if you're not an educator, there are just certain things you don't know. And so we really worked hard with that. And I had been asked for the last 4 years, are you going to run? Have you thought about running? And I was like, I don't know about politics. I just want to get things done. I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, I'm a wife, and I just think there are some things we could be doing better. And gradually in December, I had a dream. And the dream told me, you have been working so hard in advocating for our schools in South Fulton, doing the work. You need to put your hat in the ring and run for school board. So I was still very apprehensive, but I have a good tribe of moms, dads, community members that were like, we need change. We need a progressive voice. And I decided to run. So here we are 8 months later in a runoff, August 11th. And I'm just ready for us to really make sure that every school in South Fulton, not just some of the quote unquote premier schools, but every school in South Fulton really has what they need so that they can be our crown jewels of our community. I've had a wonderful experience with my kids' school, but I know that it's not like that for everyone. And so really trying to do the work. The work is the most important thing. And that's what I've signed up for.
All righty. So the Reverend Dr. Jones is going to ask you the next question. He's the pastor of the Gathering Church. Pastor Jones.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, Sister Franchesca, again. And I'm just sitting here looking at your platform. And I'm a South Fulton resident as well. I don't have children, but I'm a pastor, so I guess I do have children. And I pastor children in this area, children from South Fulton area. Just tell me a little bit about your bridging the gap between what parents see as the struggles in our schools and implementing strong long-term solutions. Tell me, just unpack that for me.
Absolutely.
I don't be knowing what all that means.
It's okay. One of the things that I think that there is a gap between what parents know and what they need to do in order to improve their schools. Here's the example. In my time in education, I've been a literacy coordinator. I've worked up in Cobb County. I've worked in Atlanta Public Schools. I've worked in all these different roles. And one of the things that I would tell parents is that when you go to certain parts of town, there are parents who all they do is not all in a bad way, but what they do every day is that they hold schools accountable and they hold people accountable who are educating their children. So for us in South Fulton, I thought it was really important for us to figure out what are the issues, what are the schools lacking, what are they doing really good at, and then using that to push for what we need. We know in Fulton County that we go through a lot of superintendents. About every year and a half, maybe 2 years, we get a new superintendent. That was one of the first issues that we started to address as an organization. Why are we having so much turnover in superintendents? What can we do? Where is the breaking point in that? And so knowing that is it, it's not enough for you just to talk about it online or to talk to your neighbor or to talk to your sorority sister or your fraternity brother. You have to get in front of it. And so one of the first things that we started to do was to go to board meetings and listening to board meetings so that parents understood the decisions that were being made. But even more importantly, showing up and speaking at board meetings, reaching out to our elected officials, the entire board, the superintendent, asking hard questions, and then having demands that we ask, because it's all fine and good for you to think that all schools should offer a particular program, but if you're not going to do the work to do it, then it doesn't really make sense for you to ask for it. And so a lot of it has been mobilizing parents. Sometimes if we have 2 board meetings a month, certain parents go to the first board meeting, certain parents go to the second board meeting. We have parents where we'll say, I'm a writer at heart, so it's nothing for me to write an opinion piece for the AJC or to be interviewed for the news. So filling the gap is figuring out the gap between home and school, is to figure out what do schools need, what do parents need, finding a common ground, and then advocating for it. And when you're doing that, you can't be scared, right? Because when we started this group, when we started to really talk about things in education in South Fulton, there were people who said, don't talk about it. We don't see our schools in a bad light. And it's not seeing your schools in a bad light. But one of the things that I consistently saw when I worked up in Cobb or I worked in other school districts was that there were people who were ready to hold adults accountable. And it can be accountable in a good way, right? We're in this together. This is what we need to do. Let's rally the troops and do it. And then it's also asking hard questions around, well, why are we doing this and not this? Have we thought about this? And that's what filling the gap is about. Filling the gap is being willing to be uncomfortable to get the results that we need, we as a community, that we need to make sure that our schools are some of the top schools in the metro area, in the state or in the country.
Another part of the
Compliment,
gap.
Shannon.
You
I
can tell me
hadn't
if I'm
gotten
wrong.
back to you, Shannon. I hadn't got back to you
Okay.
yet. We were still on Ms. Warren. So just slow,
All
hold
right.
your roll, okay? Just slow down just a little bit, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
You
All
back to
right.
me?
Now,
All right.
follow
So,
with your question. Thank you.
all right. Thank you, kind sir. I'm gonna delay myself. I feel like I'm doing the robot on this show. Francesca, part of the problem as well, I would imagine, would be the politics over the pupil, the politics over the students. I was working with the school system when the church first started, and I tired of the antics and the politics that had nothing to do with the well-being. So I think the grandstanding and all of that, that had nothing that I had really was, you know, are we talking about Fulton County schools, or, where are you guys, psychologically, physically, what planet are you on? Because I just see a disconnect between the higher ups and what's actually happening at the school level. What are you going to do about that? And what makes your approach to this different from Willie Davis Jr. or Sandra Wright?
Absolutely. So one of the things that people have to understand is that you can't change anything if you're not in the schools. That's it. In my regular day job, for the last 8 years that I've been in administration, I currently work as a literacy coordinator in a large school district. I spend 180 days in schools. That's the only way that I know what's happening, and that's the only way that I know how to exact change. So when you're talking about doing that as a board member, your job isn't to control the schools and be there on a daily basis, but you have to insert yourself into what is happening. You have to go into schools. You have to talk to teachers. You have to talk to bus drivers. You have to talk to paraprofessionals. You also have to talk to parents, and you have to figure out what is the commonality that everybody is saying, and then what are the common sense approaches. As the only teacher that is running for Fulton County School Board, policy affects not only students, it affects families and it affects communities. And when we are so bent on show grandstanding, or we are so bent on making sure that we keep the status quo, or that we make sure that people don't feel uncomfortable, then we won't grow. So the one thing that I am going to be responsible for doing is continuing to be in the community. And that means going to programs, speaking to people, asking the tough questions. One of the first things that I want to do when I win this seat is that a survey to all the parents, all the stakeholders, and to the educators. And this is why, we always talk about data around, students aren't reading well, or they're not doing this well. But we need that anecdotal data that says, how do parents view our school system? How do our schools view our parents and our communities? What are the points of contention? And then working within the community to get some of those things done. I'm going to give you an example. 4 years ago, the South Fulton Parents for Education, we started to work with some parents up in North Fulton, because we were getting tired of hearing North Fulton does this and they get this. So we said, let's go straight to the source and figure out what exactly is happening. And once we sat down and talked, we realized we have a lot of the same issues and some issues that are very different. And so we heard them say, we are having kids who are depressed, who have anxiety. We've had a number of suicides, and they had an organization called North Fulton Mental Health Alliance or Collaborative. And they would do workshops for the parents, for the kids. It was just very different. And we started to say, well, if they can have it up there, we are seeing issues, maybe not the same issues, but we need something equitable down here. And we were able to lobby for South Fulton Parents for Education, which over the last 2 years has gone from non-existent to now offering services for families and trying to fill in the gap on some of these emotional issues. And so when we talk about making sure that the difference is being there, and also the difference is making sure that you are going to do the work. The work is the most important thing. It's not most important for us to play politics with our children. It's not most important for us to make sure that we don't rock the boat. What's most important is that we do what's best for children. And what's best for children is that we figure out the gaps and we fill them in using the community, using the schools, and whatever other resources we can get.
You know, Francesca, you had shared with me earlier in terms of your plan to get community involved and getting principals and stuff involved in the community. Will you share a little of that now with the viewers? Your plan.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I consistently say is that your schools belong to the community and the community belongs to the schools, right? And that is a shift in how sometimes people think of schools. A lot of people think of schools, they're just there, they hold our kids for a certain amount of time. So we really have to look at making sure that when we have HOA meetings, when there are meetings in the community, that not only are we inviting the principal, but we are being a consistent force in the schools. Prime example, we talked earlier around kids who are not reading on level. We have lots of kids who have reading issues or who have numeracy issues. In our community, we have a large amount of retired people. We have a large amount of mentors. We really need to look at how do we get these people into our schools to help us. Almost every school in District 4 receives Title I monies. We have to make sure that as we're using these monies, that it's getting down to the students. So you might have a program where you have 20 retired teachers who come in on a rotating basis. They do 10 hours a month each, and they sit beside kids. We're not talking about them monitoring halls. We're talking about a child is sitting here, they're having trouble with their sight words, and a tutor is right there to help them. That is the most bang for your buck. That is your return on investment, because that same second grader is tricky and be an eighth grader, and be a 12th grader. You want to close those gaps. In addition, when we're talking about our churches, we have lots of churches in our community. We have to figure out a way and that we can make it so that we are asking for help and that we are not only asking, but we're a part of the fabric of that. And it's easy for us to work in silos because we see our problems sometimes as just our problems. But the reality is, in order to transform a community, everybody has to be in for the work, and then everybody has to figure out, where do I play? What's my part? And how can I work well in what I do well already?
Right. One of the things I wanted to, I guess, this is the elephant in the room, okay? The elephant in the room is the pandemic and opening up the schools. Mm-hmm. And as an educator and as a parent, what do you feel in terms of this? What is your sense in terms of how this school year is going to look, this upcoming school year is going to look?
Well, I'm glad that we are going virtual. I am a little bit disappointed that teachers are still going to have to come in because we could still have COVID cases with them. I think that this year, looking at the data and looking at China and looking at Israel and other areas that were struggling with the pandemic, we are probably going to be virtual for at least first semester, if not for the whole year. And I think that the goal should be making sure that we are safe. And so it's going to take parents and schools to really figure out what were the sticking points that didn't work in the spring. Lots of parents said, my child didn't get any instruction, my child got packets, our Wi-Fi is not working, I have to work all day. And schools have parent liaisons. They have people in the building, they have paraprofessionals that can help fill in those gaps. And so it's really going to be us figuring what were the gaps and quickly filling them in. We don't have a semester to get it right. We have about 2 weeks when school starts to figure it out and to get in there. And the things that the schools can't do, because schools can't solve all social ills, but what schools can do is say, hey, we're having this issue. Can this community organization come in and help us? And I think that is going to be the key in order for us to really be successful and for parents to feel okay. And the other side is that we have parents who have to work. There are parents who are holding down 2 jobs, both parents, they can't watch their kids. And so one of the things that we did in South Fulton Parents for Education is that we created COVID pods. And these are parents getting together in groups and saying, I have a 10th grader, a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, and linking up with other parents and figuring out their childcare together. So it might be where one parent says, I'm off 2 days during the week. Another parent is off a day, and working together so that they can figure it out and not work in isolation or risk having kids being home all day by themselves.
The other question that was a statement. I make a statement. I've heard so many people say they want to help in the school system, but the school system, they won't let them in. I've heard people say that they won't even let us use the track to exercise. I mean, we pay the tax dollars, but the school, we pay the largest amount of taxes, property taxes, to Board of Education, and we always on the commissioners and the county commissioners and the city council people, but our tax dollars go to the school system, and many of us don't have kids in school, and we still paying taxes and paying off these school bonds, but we can't have a say in the school system. That's problematic for me. That's taxation without representation, because certainly we're not being represented by hearing our voices and allowing us to get into the process of the school system. So, and I think that you and your organization, y'all kind of working to figure out a way how you can do that. But it has been an age-old problem. Bill Edwards and I, years ago when he had Parent University, we tried all that we could, a group of us then, back then, that was back in the 90s, tried to get into the school system. But there was you can't get in, because you had to think, it wasn't Dr. Fox who was superintendent then. They don't have so many superintendents. It's Fulton County School, so they had so many superintendents. So the reality of it is, but the policy makers are the people who make the policies. And as you guys are making policies, there should be consideration, as you're talking about, is about the taxpayers and their tax dollars in terms of wanting to help in the school system and wanting to utilize the tracks, the exercise and stuff. They ought to be able to say, okay, you can use the track. It's ours. Really, it's ours. Absolutely. I don't know. But I'm just saying. And I'm going to let you respond to my statement, not my question.
I think that there is a frustration, right? I want to work. I want to support my school. I want to be in the schools. I want to make sure my schools have it. And I think there has to be some type of protocol that if we are teaming up with community members to say, you want to use our track, that's fine. Here is the process to do it. We just need you to sign right here that you're going to be here at this time. It's 2020, and we are working in a generation where we can find solutions this fast. So those are simple problems that can be fixed. When we start talking about being a part of our schools, we need community members on our school governance councils. We have spots for them. How effectively are those positions advertised out to the community? How many times when we're doing these back to school nights, do we invite the mayor? Do we invite our city council people? Do we invite the commissioners? How many times are we really trying to say this is a united front to help our schools? So I think it's more of a mindset that has to be shifted, and that everything that you do in the school system affects the community. Not only with paying property taxes, but when we talk crime, you can't talk crime if you don't talk about schools and what's happening in schools. And when when kids get in 10th grade, are they dropping out and leaving? And like, what's happening? So it's a shift. It's a mindset shift. And part of that is knowing who your school board member is, right? Saying, who is my school board member? Where do they sit on this? What are they going to do to affect change? Because everything doesn't have to be a policy, but everything does start with that relationship piece and saying, here's what the community wants. How can we find a common ground and make people feel welcome? And the same thing is true from the flip side. As a school, as you're looking to, for an example, several of our schools have said, we really have a hard time with landscaping. And it's something so simple, right? But they're saying we have a really hard time. We don't have time to make sure that it looks how it needs to look. But that's the first thing that people see when they come into our schools. They see how our school is landscaped or not. So in the community, a school should be able to put out and say, we need this. We have this need, and someone from the community say, yes, I have you. And that's how you build those relationships. We cannot work in silo. It's 2020. And if COVID has taught us nothing, is that we need one another. And so we have to figure it out.
One of the things one of the last things that I want to say is that I was a part of and have been a part of several committees to select principals. You know, they want somebody from the community to be a part of the committee.
Absolutely.
But being on those committees, and I heard you saying, you know, community involvement and their role for community involvement, but it has been my experience when they ask for community involvement and you're on those committees, you're only there to meet the requirement as a citizen on a committee, because the selection of who that principal is going to be has already been chosen by the assistant superintendent, who will be the one who will assign that person to that school. And I just left the process alone because you wasn't hearing what we were saying, even the committee was saying, because many times the committee, one committee I was on went totally against the person to be the principal, and the person we selected was not selected, and the other person who we felt was not good for the community and all the school, because it has to be a fit for the community as well as, you know, the school. And that person wasn't selected. Another person was selected. So I said, it makes no sense when you have a group of people that spend all day long interviewing people for the position, and then you select someone else. And that was disheartening for me. So that kind of took a little wind out of my sail when it came to the school system and board of education. So that process needs to be looked into in terms of community involvement. Is it really wanted, or is it just to meet a requirement?
I always say this, and that we say parent involvement, but if we really want parent involvement, we look at the critiques. And parent involvement isn't just when things are going right and, you know, the parents are agreeing with you. Parent involvement is when you're able to take criticism and make things better. So when you talk about the selection of principals, one of the things that we did, my kids attended Cliftondale Elementary School. We lost a principal, and then we got another principal, and we lost that principal within maybe 9 months. And so parents were upset. We were upset, rightfully so. And I can remember sitting on that selection committee, and I can remember, I think we have 4 or 5 candidates, and I can remember we having some very hard conversations because we as parents felt as if we were being pushed to pick somebody that we did not necessarily want. In the end, we got who we wanted, but it was because there were 4 other parents with us saying, this is who we're voting for. And so I think that if you're, and you saying that, you're not the first parent who's told me. I've sat on selection committees and picked somebody and that person did or did not get chosen, right? I think those are the things that have to be addressed. Because who we pick to lead our schools are critical in making sure that our schools are where they need to be. 3 years later, after we picked our principal, now Cliftondale Elementary School went from an F to a B. And we say that we wanted somebody who we felt like we would be at home with our children. And it was not a pretty conversation. And it wasn't that the other candidates weren't good, but we were looking for a fit. Somebody who was going to be there, somebody who wasn't necessarily going to leave after 2 years to pursue something else. We were looking for a fit. And I think that's important. And if we're really talking about parent involvement, they have to take that advice. And you have to say, what am I doing in this process? Is it just for formalities, or is it really for us to pick the best candidates for our students?
Well, we want to thank you so much for being on Straight Talk today. And I know you want to ask the people to vote for you. So I'm going to give you that opportunity right now.
On August the 11th, guys, you have the opportunity to pick a candidate who is not only progressive, you will be able to pick the only candidate who has been a teacher and an administrator. The only candidate. I have written books. I have presented all around the country on teaching and learning. And probably most importantly, as a parent, it is critical for us during this time for us to pick doers and not people who are just in it for a title. And so with that, if you vote for me, Franchesca Warren for Fulton County School Board, you will pick someone who has done the work, who is doing the work, and will continue to do the work. If you have any questions about my platform, you need a yard sign, anything like that, you can go to www.electfranchesca.com, and we will get back to you within 24 hours. Thank you, Bishop Fan, and thank you to all the guests who listen.
All right. Pastor Jones, you have anything you want to say? No, you ain't got nothing you want to
I'm
say.
happy to be there. One thing I would say to Francesca is that I am concerned about the turnover with leadership. That's going to be something that's very important. The school that we adopted, that we were working with, we had 6 principals in 1 year. It's an alternative school. I'm not going to call the name, but there were 6 principals in 1 year, and the first principal that was there, which is why we chose the school, she had turned the school around. The graduation rate had grown by 95%. She was a former student of that school and turned around and became principal of that school and did a wonderful job. But again, the politics ended up sidelining her, and it had nothing. The children loved her, and the children performed because of her. And she was removed, and as soon as she was removed, you saw it go down. So I'm concerned that Fulton County schools, you all have more principals than Baptist Church have pastors. You got to do something about that. We got to slow that down. We got to save that. One last question I would ask of you. I know you've got to go. You're very important. You got to get on the phone and dial for dollars and get folks to support you. Your yard sign, they got to pay. Somebody got to pay for them yard signs. I know. Listen, what do you say? Because don't look now, but they talking about you. Don't look. They talking about you. You know how they do in South Fulton. You know. And they saying she's too much of an inside. We need someone from the outside come in and reform. She's too much of an inside. Her whole professional life has been on the inside, and she's too much of an insider to bring change. Speak to that.
I think those are people who don't understand how schools work. You would never ask somebody who's never been a doctor to sit on a medical board. So when people say I've been an insider, I've worked as an educator, I've worked in school systems, but I've never worked in Fulton. And I think we were some of the first groups who started to say, this is not right, and to call national attention to it. So if people are looking for someone who's going to play the same games, somebody who's going to just pacify and not say anything, then they don't know my platform and they have never interacted with me. I like to use the word, Shirley Chisholm said it best, unbought, unsold, unbought, unbossed. Right? For us, I'm not running for this seat for a position or to say I'm a school board member. I have actually a really good job. And so for me to run for this is because it's a passion. And so for those who are saying that, it's the insider, we need somebody from outside, I am that person. And because I've worked in so many districts and I know what's happening, what good practice is across, I can help bring that. And so I invite those people who say that to reach out to me. I'm not scared to ask any questions. I don't need to see the question beforehand. My focus is on doing what's right for children. And if we can all agree to do what's right for children, they can say whatever they want, they can do whatever they want, but we have to get back to doing what's best for children.
And did you get that,
Got my
Shannon?
vote.
Did you hear
And
that?
she got my
She
vote.
said, "What's best for the
I'm going to
children?"
vote right now. I'm leaving right now to go vote. I'm going
Well,
to vote
don't
right now.
leave
You
right.
got
Don't
it. You
leave
got
right
it.
now. Don't leave
No,
right
I got
now.
to vote now. I got to go vote. I got to go vote.
Well, thank you again, Franchesca, and we wish you the best, and we know you're going to do a good job on the school board and representing kids, children. Thank you so very much for joining us today on Straight Talk with George Trudy, Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, and my sidekick, Little Jose, Dr. Shannon Jones.
Thank
Bye,
you guys for
Francesca.
having me. Bye, guys.
We are AFIA Environmental Group. My name is Yolanda Pickestock, and I am an owner of AFIA Environmental Group. We are here at Liberty International Church disinfecting for the COVID-19 virus. This disinfectant is a powerful disinfectant for the virus. However, it is safe for human consumption. And we will allow our technician to give you some additional information about the process, what he's doing, and how the chemicals work.
Chlorine vinyl oxide, which is a chemical that is used to kill mold, mildew, viruses, fungi. Actually, it's one of the best non-invasive chemicals on the market. As you see, we are here disinfecting this building without having to be on a full mop gear. What that means to you, that it is friendly when it comes into human contact, but at the same time, it has the ability and effectiveness to kill germs.
We are AFIA Environmental Group. In addition to providing disinfectant services, we also carry hospital-grade medical masks and the KN95 mask. If you are interested in our services, please contact us at 404-973-0502.
It's Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, and the Reverend Dr. Shannon Jones. And we'll be right back. Don't you dare touch that dial. Dr. Jones and I are coming right back with more right here on Straight Talk. All right now, Dr. Jones, we back, Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, are you there, Dr. Jones? Calling Dr. Jones.
I'm right here. I'm
All
right here.
Dr. Jones calling Dr. Shannon Jones. Hey, Shannon, you know, today we had an opportunity to do a blood go over and give blood at the blood drive that Representative Joe Hextall, former Representative Joe Hextall, and many of the elected officials, including myself, were part of. And I wanted to just bring on Representative Hextall and the representative that were there and the people that were there that were giving blood. And, you know, if you haven't given blood, do. When a blood drive comes your way, do, because the blood you give may just save your own life. Around the blood drive today.
Well, let me just say, it's not about me, it's a matter of we.
Okay.
You know, sometimes the Spirit gives you the idea, but it has to develop legs with those that are around you. Senator James, Senator Judge Leffler, so many people about you as a politician. It's a collective effort because we know there's a tremendous blood shortage in the African American community, and if we don't contribute, nobody else is. We are unfortunately use blood disproportionately to the other minority community. So we need to do something because we have sickle cell, we have lifestyle styles that need to be challenged sometimes. And with the violence in our neighborhood, and especially with people in a lot of fear now because of the coronavirus epidemic or pandemic, we need to do whatever we can to replenish our blood supply. So when the idea came to me, I immediately called Senator James, Governor Barnes, I called you and many others, and everyone responded positively, or most people responded positively. And as a result, this is a culmination of a lot of effort, a lot of work between a lot of people. And you see two of them standing here now. Left, Harris, left. And I apologize. You know, that's what happens when you eat Bojangles biscuits and you eat it too fast.
Oh Lord, let me go to you, Judge Harris. Let me go to you, Judge Harris. Judge Harris, well, you're here today and you're helping out, and of course you are community minded and working in the community, not just a judge sitting on a bench, but a person who cares about the community. Tell us a little bit about you and your commitment to the community overall.
I'm definitely a community servant. I mean, you know, we're on the bench, but we need to be community servants off the bench as well. And so when Representative Hextall called me and said, "Hey, I need your help at the blood drive on the 31st," I said, "Let me know. I got my arm ready, and I got my shirt on. Let's do it." And so I'm happy to be here. We've seen a long stream of people coming through here to give blood, and so that's really inspiring to see so many people willing to reach out, roll their sleeves up, and literally give of themselves to a fellow man. I'm inspired by Representative Hextall, Senator Donzella James, and I'm just happy to be a part of the team.
All right, we're happy to have you a part of the team. I wish you well on your elections too. All right, Senator James.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great.
So-
And I'm
so,
very happy to see so many people have come out to give a pint of blood to try to help replenish the Red Cross system right now, because I know that blood is very necessary in our community.
All right. So, Senator, you've always been community minded, civic minded. Back in the days when you started the fight against the landfill in South Fulton, that was one of your first fights. Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. I mean, you've just been out here supporting and helping the community for so many years, and to see you here today, helping again, making sure that people are donating blood and giving blood. But you know what I said to the people? I said, you know, give blood because you may need it yourself. You may be saving your own life.
Exactly.
So thank you so much, Senator, for being here with Monsignor, who my mama will hang out with his name is, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, it appears that we've lost some volume there in that video, but we were there giving blood to help doing this blood drive, and I want to thank Representative Hextall for putting it together. God gave him a vision, and he called people together to help fulfill that vision and making sure that people would give blood to help those people who may need blood during these times. And as I said, Dr. Jones, you know that blood you give, you may need it yourself. So you never know. You can save a life. You may be saving your own life. So, Dr. Jones, on a serious note, we are in a serious mess here in this country. As I see it, I see us, you know, it appears that we're moving toward from a democracy to a dictatorship, from a democracy to a dictatorship, where we have a leader that wants to dictate and forget the Constitution, forget any of those things, but whatever I say, that's what goes. What say ye?
I say first and foremost, I wish people would stop calling me while I'm trying to do a show live. But the other thing is that that first and foremost, we don't have a leader. That's the first thing. This nation has someone that has usurped the process and taken hostage the office of the presidency. He is incapable of leading his own companies. He's incapable of leading his own family. He can't keep a company. Until Melania, he couldn't keep a wife. And come November the 3rd, he won't be able to keep a hold of this office that he's holding now. But this is a person that, and this is the danger of supremacy and the mental illness of racism, that coming on the heels of Obama, they had to put someone in office, they being largely the majority of this nation, and many whom we counted in our numbers. Statistically, we see that they switched over and they supported with their family and friends. They supported a Trump ticket and put a person in office that really dug to the lowest vestiges of racism, white privilege, supremacy that exists in this country. And it was coming off of 8 years of just being afraid, because we saw Obama, right? And we know that Obama, is a black man, but Obama's no Kwame Ture. He's he's no Ali. He's certainly no Bubba to OJ or any of the great leaders that we know. He's not a Farrakhan. He's not even a Justice. He's Barack Obama, and be one of the more moderate brothers in our community. There are some that are certainly more militant than a Barack Obama could ever dream of being, right? But what this vote for Trump showed us was that Obama was to the white racists in this country, the mandingo, the fear of a slave revolting and coming back to do to them what they had done to us. It was fear. And so as soon as they tried to get him out, they fought him all the way through. As soon as they got him out, as soon as his term ended, they went with that fear, and they went to the far extreme to bring on to this country a president who was shocked, by the way, when he was elected that night and he walked out there. He was absolutely in shock that he was elected, okay, and had no true plan to lead. And 4 years later, still has no true plan to lead because he's not a leader. But their racism, Bishop, caused them to go to the far extreme and get the worst extremists out of all of the candidates that they could. And they picked someone that was not even not even anyone that embodied the true Republican ideas. They jumped over Jeb Bush. They jumped over a Mitt Romney to go and get this man and bring him in. And the country has suffered 4 more years of Trump, and we will be in a dictatorship. He'll wear a military uniform, perhaps with a bunch of braids, and he'll come out looking like Captain Crunch, with all the medals and stuff on it. And will be an absolute dictator if we elect 4 more years. If he's elected for another 4 years, because they can't control him now. You give him 4 more years.
And I concur. Yoel said, I couldn't have said it any better myself, because I just know that we cannot take another 4 years under this kind of leadership, because this country has gone backwards, totally backwards. And I mean, because it's just unreal what we're seeing now. But, as men of God, we know that the Bible said these things would come to pass, that people have itching ears and run after every wind of doctrine. And so this is what we see. And people are greedy, they're selfish, you can see the hatred, you can see the jealousy, you can see the envy, you can just see the anger in people because of the leadership. And let's be clear now. This started not with just Donald Trump. It started when the White House was stolen by Bush. Let's just be very clear on that. That's when this country started changing, because people started looking at what's going on. Are elections really being held in a fair manner? That was the hanging chad. So they came back and changed the machines and what have you. We can talk about even our governor who ran as Secretary of State who ran an election who would not step down in that position that he was holding, that was running an election that he was running for in terms of being
Exactly.
governor. We can talk about our former governor prior to, Sonny Perdue. When Sonny Perdue, when he got elected, he didn't think when he won, he didn't believe he was going to win. Now he's on the cabinet of Donald Trump over agriculture for the U.S. agriculture. I mean, so we can go on and on and on and on about when this stuff started changing. But if we do not speak out and we do not deal with the reality of what it really is and stop getting it off in our own little silos and stop being selfish and greedy and envious and look out as God has told us to do for the people, the least, the less, the lost, and the left out. If we don't do that, then we're not doing what God has required us to do, and not only as ministers, but as people as a period. That's what Jesus has said that we are to do. And if we don't do that, he said we were going to hell. Now, I'm not on this program to preach, but on this program to give you straight talk, real talk, because it is real. Because that's what we're seeing. The day I went out to Greenbrier Mall, along with one of my members, one of the deacons, and we were leaving. And as you know, the traffic that would be at the light there, right, when you come back out on Greenbrier Parkway, there's a right lane and there's a left lane. The left lane you turn going back toward the expressway or going back toward Camden Road. The right lane you go straight down Headland, or you go back the right, go down Greenbrier Parkway. Well, there's a young person in a car. When the light changed, they're in the car and they dotted in front of a car that was in the left lane. Could have caused a major accident. Not thinking. We don't think. We don't use common sense no more. It's what I need, what I want to do for me. Forget you. Forget how it's going to affect you. Forget how it's going to hurt you. So whatever you do under one, others you ought to want to do the same thing to them that you would have them to do unto you. That's what the word says, right? So that's what I see that's going on, because we're supposed to be a God-fearing country, but there's really no fear of God. And in this country, with all the churches, all the ministry, all the ministers, there's no fear of God. And I think that as we look at this thing, we have allowed the politicians as ministers to be the voice for the people, but the men and women of God are supposed to be the voice of the people. And if the men and women of God are not speaking up, but they're war unto us, because it's our job not to get caught up in the world. We can be in the world but not of the world. So we can't get caught up of the things of the world. So what you've said was very profound, because many of us have sold our souls to the devil for a few dollars. And you brought nothing here, not taking anything away. But I want to talk a little bit, Shannon, before we get off, about the congressman and how we're losing, and we got about 7 minutes, how we're losing these leaders. We lost CT, we lost Laurie this year, and Representative John Lewis, and how people have positioned themselves to be the new leaders for the people, but they ain't leading the people. They're self-serving, serving themselves, and not looking out as they did. Many of them did, and even some of them didn't. But many of them fought and stood up for humanity, for what's right. And hopefully, just like the hate crime bill was passed because of Black Lives Matter and all the things that was happening, the Demon Dome said, we're going to go ahead and pass it now because we got all this pressure. So we're going to pass a hate crime bill, which we have been trying to get passed for years, right?
For years.
But they finally passed it. Now maybe with the death of Congressman Lewis, they'll go back and put that 13th that language in there in terms of the Voters' Rights Act that he fought for and bled for. And not only him, Hosea Williams, we can go on and on and on, people who were part of that march and demonstration, and even unsung heroes, people we don't know. Because there was a bunch of people that were beaten. There was a bunch of people who died. If you've never been to Selma, you need to go to Selma. You will see that bridge. And we do need to make sure that they name that bridge after Congressman John Lewis. When we were down there this past year, we were asking for that then. But that's a real reality. We need to understand what's really going on here in this dispensation. And as a leader in your own right, in your community, and me as a leader in my community, and others that are leaders in our community, we need to come together and not be electing people based on popularity. You know, they my buddy, they my friend. But are they really going to be there to do the work of the people, or are they going to go there? And that's why I like what Franchesca said. She said, I'm not going there for a name. I already got a name. I'm not going there for a job or a title. I got a good job. I'm going there for the kids. I'm going there to look out for the kids, because that's what's important, is the kids. Now, Shannon, what say you? We got 5 minutes, and we'll wrap it up.
Well, I say that, we're in a moment that the great German theologian and reformer Dietrich Bonhoeffer fought against the church being caught up in what I call cultural fungus. Culture grows quick like a fungus. It spreads, and it will spread anywhere and everywhere that it is allotted to go. And all it needs is an open door, and it will come in. The Black Church has always been that institution that is pro-Protestant. Okay, so if the Protestant church is that church that protested against the rule of a episcopal system that gave no power to the pew, then the Black church was that church that protested even further beyond that. We're losing the teeth of that, and we're opening our door to the cultural fungus, and our tongues are being stuck. We cannot speak prophetically. We cannot lead prophetically, and the country will suffer because of that, because it is only the Black church that took on the role of redeeming the soul of America. And if the Black church stammers its tongue, then we're going to see the kind of cultural shifts that we're looking at in our local community and in our government and in our body politic. So that's something that we're absolutely going to have to deal with. It's time out for milquetoast preachers. We look, prophets are pastors too. And we need prophetic pastors right now that smell like they're sheep, but are ready to get out into the four corners and begin to understand that if you're on your way to heaven, you're going to have to raise some hell.
All
and
right.
If this world is a hell system, when you walking around in a dirty field, dirt's going to kick up. And if you out walking and marching and moving and having a movement, then we're going to raise some hell. Dirt will get up, hell will raise. But it has to raise in order to be lifted and to be wiped out. So I'm blaming right now us. I'm blaming us. Not you and me, but us collectively. It's movement time, and it's for the church, particularly the Black church, to be true to what it was created to do, and to recognize the cultural fungus that we've allowed to come in. And like them people you had spraying around your church, we need to bring AFA, whatever the name of them, we need to bring them in, and they need to spray the fungus and the virus out of us so that we can be worth something to Jesus again. Because what Jesus did got him killed. And what we're doing is sitting down and having ice cream and cocktails with evil. And that's a problem. All of his disciples, I'm rapping, all of his disciples were killed by the state because they fought against the evil of the state. We're too cozy and comfortable with the state. Start with the church.
My name is Melanie Leftridge Harris, and I'm running for Fulton County Superior Court Judge, and I'm in the runoff election on August 11th. I've been serving you full-time as a Fulton County Magistrate Court Judge for the last 10 years. The last 5 of which I've served as a Fulton County Superior Court Judge, sitting by designation, handling a wide variety of cases. I'm a Spelman College and Georgetown Law graduate, and I've been a resident of Fulton County for over 25 years. As our next Fulton County Superior Court Judge, I'll continue to treat every person that comes before me with respect and compassion in following the law. My name is Melanie Lethbridge Harris, and I hope to earn your support, your prayers, and your vote for Fulton County Superior Court Judge in the runoff election on August 11th.